This is Megamorphs 1. Totally
Yes.
legible to everyone listening to the podcast. I know.
Welcome to Inchworm.
The podcast in which we're inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ted.
This time we read another devastating chapter. And by devastating, I mean to Taylor's territory.
Snare 13.4.
Thank you for knowing the chapter number.
Skitterland is effectively no more. We're just a burned out wasteland and an orphanage. So
We don't know that. What kind of conclusion are you jumping to? Some buildings are definitely on fire. We don't know that her entire territory is lost or unlivable, or that all of her people are lost.
I mean, I don't know if the numbers are supposed to add up, but she counted like 30 or 40 bodies out of a total population of 15, and that doesn't include Charlotte and like a dozen children, so...
Her population of 50 was her, like, active helpers, not the population of her territory.
That's fair.
That's completely different. There were a lot of people in her territory. There's just 50
fair.
people had, like, entered her employ.
And Mannequin would have no way of knowing to target only her minions.
No, exactly, yeah,
Mannequin
that's
would be
true.
targeting all citizens. So that's a great point.
And it seems like Mannequin only killed a small portion of those. Burnscar's fires probably killed the others. And those would not have been targeted at all.
All right, well, you're raising my hopes after saying it was a devastating
you've
chapter.
Already read this, and you're saying that her territory is no more and that, 80% of the people in it are dead. So
I was just reacting to the math.
Okay. So you're not actually claiming anything about the state of her territory. It's true that things do not look good for Skitterland.
Maybe I'm just trying to channel how Taylor is feeling this chapter.
That's fair. Taylor has a lot of feelings in this chapter, but I think you should tell us about the events of the chapter before we get any more into it.
Sure, well, Burnscar had just tagged Mannequin out, which is apparently a thing you can do in this game.
Apparently. But
And-
he's still doing stuff. I'm sorry, I'm editorializing, but I'm mad. Please go on.
Well, it's very fair to be mad. He sucks, and so does she. It is starting to rain, but thanks to Burnscar, there is fire everywhere. Mm-hmm. Taylor's like, this is a totally different fight from Mannequin. I'm unprepared. But before the fighting kicks off in earnest, Burnscar is a little defensive. Like, okay, I'm following the rules, and now I'm going to test you. I'm going to do that. And Taylor and Grue keep kind of nitpicking. Grue even attempts to, like, gaslight her a little bit to be like, you're doing it wrong. Mannequin calls him out on it. Bitch is a little bit like, shut up and get to the point, which is counter to their strategy of stalling. But Burnscar does tell Bitch, your test is to destroy any hold that your greatest fear has over you. And Bitch says, I'm not going to hurt my dogs. And Burnscar's like, no. Dogs are replaceable. And what really gets to you is these connections you formed with your teammates and your fear of losing them. So I need you to kill Grue and Skitter. And Bitch is like, no, I don't care. Like I don't give a shit about them. Burnscar's like, well, Cherish told us that you're losing them. Bitch is like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to play this game. And Burnscar's like, okay, but if you don't, then I'm going to kill you and all your dogs and kill them anyway. Taylor is reading some indecision into Bitch in this moment. So she starts moving her bugs stealthily towards Burnscar as Brian continues to stall. Finally, Mannequin's like, no, they're trying to stall you. Brian says, are you going to gamble, that you're not doing it wrong and won't get punished? And Burnscar's like, yeah. And Taylor's like, okay, this is my moment. The bugs cover Burnscar, but then Mannequin punches Burnscar and launches her into a fire. So the bugs are destroyed and Burnscar can teleport away, but they take that moment to run. Bitch is riding away on Sirius. They lose track of her from this point on. Grue and Taylor are trying to support each other and stumble through the fire. Taylor gets badly burned, but they do make it through kind of the initial wall of fire. She falls to the ground, is smothered by Grue's darkness, but then panics a little bit. But because the fire is disorienting and destroying her swarm enough that she is actually in sort of total sensory deprivation in a way that she usually isn't when she's in Grue's darkness. So she's panicking, but he manages to douse the flames that are on her, get her to calm down, and they basically make their way out of the fight. They make their way out of the combat zone down to the edge of the boardwalk by the beach, and they turn around and can see that Skitterland is burning. Grue's like, this is bad, but we just gotta survive for now. And Taylor's thinking, I was ready to die against Mannequin just to take him out. All of this stuff that I had done, becoming a full-fledged supervillain, all to sort of protect people, and I keep failing them. I keep failing to protect people. And Grue's trying to get her to leave, but Taylor's like, look, Genesis is there. We have to go back for her. Her real body is at my lair, which is possibly on fire right now. So they decide they're not going to call bitch because, if her phone rings and she's hiding, that could get Burnscar after her. They sneak in through the storm drain, get to the lair, and they find not just Genesis, but Charlotte and 15 or so children. Charlotte is like, please don't be mad, but I saw Mannequin killing people, and so I just got as many kids as I could. I mean, these kids just watched their parents die, and I brought them into your lair. Taylor's overwhelmed by the sense of failure, manages to tell Charlotte that she did good, and is really struggling with the weight of, seeing these kids are clearly in shock. Her swarm is detecting, more bodies in the streets that she hadn't been aware of. She says, okay, Charlotte, take the kids, get into the storm drain, because that's going to be safer than this building, and wait it out there. And Charlotte's happy to take orders and take the kids away. That leaves Taylor and Brian with Genesis, who is fast asleep, dead to the world. Taylor's like, I don't know if I should wake her up, because if she's currently fighting Burnscar, I wouldn't want to mess with that. Charlotte points out, well, if you're going to need to make a run with Genesis, you're going to need this wheelchair. Taylor and Brian are like, well, that's going to make it harder. But while they are getting a sense of what's going on, Taylor sees Genesis and Burnscar were sort of fighting, but basically Genesis retreated. It's unclear exactly what's going on in the fight. And Taylor's reflecting that she's feeling bad. It's sort of close to a trigger event feeling, but she's not getting any of the range extension or power boost that she has before. And this all culminates in her saying to Brian, as they're in the bathroom getting themselves stitched up, we will not survive this. We can't get through another 7 rounds of this. He's like, no, we got unlucky. And she's like, no, they've basically got us with our backs to the wall. They'll kill us, and then they'll do the same thing to all the other candidates. They're going to ruin everything. And she decides she's gonna leave right then, go out and do something. And Brian tries to physically stop her. And she's like, no, they're bullies, but we can't let them get away with this, right? I can take down Burnscar somehow if I get the right bugs. I have to do something. And Brian's like, you can barely walk. This is a really bad idea. They're sort of physically struggling as Genesis wakes up. She gets in her wheelchair and comes to join them and lets them know, basically, I'm not sleeping, I'm in a coma when I'm using my power. So they wouldn't have been able to wake her up. And she confirms that she had retreated from Mannequin's gas, tried to regenerate a new form that would be good for fighting Mannequin, but by the time she did that, she was fighting Burnscar, and she wasn't any use against Burnscar. Turns out, when Genesis left, Burnscar left shortly afterward. Taylor is at this point thinking, okay, well, now that the moment has passed, I'm glad I didn't just rush out there and do something foolish. And she feels kind of embarrassed about how hot-headed and impulsive she was being. Taylor asks Genesis to create some kind of firefighting body. Genesis says her reserves are low, but she's going to try. And they all kind of go their separate ways. Taylor retreats upstairs and, is reflecting about how awful she feels. And in addition, how selfish she feels, that she's caring about her reputation and her plot to save Dinah and all of this stuff in the face of all of, the more visceral tragedy. She's thinking, our enemies are so smart. Jack's really like the one behind it all. And she has a new idea. Brian is like, we should go look for bitch. How you doing? She's like, I am pissed. She's now like almost about to cry. He envelops her in a big hug and says, we'll get through this. And she's like, no, we won't get through this. He's like, okay, but you're saying that, but it's different than when you were saying it just a little while ago. And she's like, yeah, we won't get through this playing by the rules.
Yeah.
If they're playing dirty, so will we.
Yeah. I hope she has a plan. I suspect she does not. It's just, I feel like the times when she has a plan tend to be like in the middle of combat. I don't know that she's shown a lot of like sort of big picture strategic thinking. Like the moment that this reminds me of the most is at the end of Our Gate when she's like, I'm going to be different and better. And then she doesn't come up with a way to do that.
Well, yeah, I'll color what she says a little bit more than I did in the summary. Grue reminds her that it's a losing odds, according to Dinah, for a direct attack. Right. And she says, well, we'll do something indirect.
Yes.
Whatever that means. And we'll target the testers who haven't gone yet.
Yes. Which makes a lot of sense, but I doubt she has any knowledge right now of how to do that.
Yeah.
I think probably we're going to get a discussion of like, okay, how do we do that? It will be much easier if they know about Cherish, so hopefully they can find out soon.
Yeah.
But I don't think, Aisha's about to waltz into this flaming territory to tell them, so hopefully they'll track her down. We also have no idea where Bitch is, and she's the actual candidate who's being targeted by Burnscar, so there's a lot of, bad stuff happening. A lot of loose threads that need to be tied up before they can move on.
Yeah.
I think Taylor is right. It is a losing proposition. And this is kind of what I was saying, I don't know, a couple episodes ago, where I was like, are we really going to see all of these tests play out? I mean, first of all, the way that she described it sounded completely exhausting. I mean, it's kind of what she's realizing here. She's like, oh, they're taking everything we've got, like, every time.
Yeah.
We're just going to get worn down and killed, which
Yeah.
is accurate. Like, yeah, you get one of these incredibly powerful capes who are trying to kill you after you. I mean, I was going to say every 3 days, but so far it's been constant.
Yeah.
It's going to take a toll. You're not going to have time to heal or replenish your resources.
And it's funny because, yeah, you're absolutely right, sort of narratively, right. It's only been half an arc of, like, the tests, and we're already at the point of Taylor being like, I want to flip the chessboard, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, I do think she has to. Like, yeah, so logistically, they can't do this. But also, I was sort of expecting narratively, like, yeah, we're not going to get 8 tests in a row and, like, following a 3-day pattern. Like, that's just not going to happen. And it's possible that it would be more like what just happened here, where, like, Mannequin struggled, so he handed off his turn, so he only got, like, half a day or whatever. And it could be that the numbers sort of get eaten down in that way. Like, there's a different kind of twist each time that, like, make them go faster, make them, just stand out in a distinct way. But I think that probably the game is going to change. That feels right.
It's also funny because there's the element of they started the cheating, right? It's so infuriating that Mannequin doesn't actually lose, right? They get to the point where they're going to kill him and they cheat in order to save his life.
And then when they're fighting Burnscar, Mannequin cheats by helping her out.
Exactly. One of the rules was explicitly, like, no physical help. You can help with, like, logistics or planning and stuff like that. Right, but not in combat.
And both of them did that.
Right.
So, yeah, they're playing dirty. Our heroes need to play dirty. But our heroes didn't have a lot of limits on what they could do. Except for, like, they can't pull in people who don't live in Brockton Bay.
Yeah.
It seems unlikely that she would go to Legend anyway. That doesn't seem like the move. But yeah, I mean, I guess attacking members of the 9 who haven't gone yet is playing dirty. But again, how are they going to do that?
Yeah.
Wait, but Cherish knows everyone's keystones.
Ooh.
What's Jack's keystone? Do we know yet? Did we talk about that? He needs a challenge. He wants to think himself smart. I feel like the 9 is in a way his keystone, but like not, like if he lost the 9, he'd just start over with someone new.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe not.
Well, there's also the element of, like, if to be on the 9, you have to have your keystone destroyed. So you're like an inhuman monster. There is sort of a different way to think about it.
But is that even possible? Like, are there any humans who don't have keystones? Because he talked about, like, the levers that he pulls with all of them.
That's a great point.
Shatterbird needs to think that people are, like, impressed by her.
Yeah.
And Siberian cares about Bonesaw and...
Well, yeah, so does he genuinely care about the reputation of the 9? Like, will he be furious by the accusations, the meritorious accusations of cheating that may come to him based on this scene? Will he be furious about that, or will he laugh it off because he's sort of more whimsical?
He would definitely laugh it off. Remember that time that the 9 was hired to, like, kill some people, and they did, and then they also killed the people who hired them? Like, they don't care about playing fair. Bonesaw cares about fair.
Right.
But Jack does not.
Right.
So possibly if they said it in front of Bonesaw, she would make enough of a stink that Jack would be like, okay, fine, Burnscar loses a day. But there's no penalty. Like you said, it's a very loose agreement. There's no penalty in the terms as set out by Jack for, like, what happens when someone fails like Mannequin did. It's just like, we'll punish our own.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want.
Well, yeah. So, right, that's interesting. So maybe just he would hate it to be boring.
Yes, he would hate it to be boring.
Right. So maybe it's just
he would hate to think that he had no effect on the world. I think that would be his weak spot. But, like, how would that happen? I'm not sure how you would deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, people would have to really not care about the stuff that he does. And the stuff he does, it's hard not to care about.
Yeah. He's well positioned.
Yeah. And he's someone who any bit of leverage you give him, he will do something with. So they're not going to make him ineffectual.
Yeah. But it's like, it's also, the thing about them cheating is it's like, I could sort of imagine you playing it straight, where it's like, well, Jack set up the rules and we have to play by the rules and everyone wants to be a rule follower. And, like, it's almost the situation with Coil, where Taylor's like, well, if I am just really, really good at following the rules, I'll be rewarded. And we're just screaming at her like, it's not gonna work like that.
It works.
And so it is nice that they are recognizing the 9 are not to be trusted. But it's kind of funny that it's like the 9 are so bad at even the pretense of playing by the rules that they don't even have to overcome their inner rule followers in order to do it. Right. It's very much a like, okay, you started it and now we're going to finish it. Right.
They only care about the rules insofar as Jack can enforce them. And Jack's hold over all of them is relatively loose.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like, Burnscar is such a different opponent from Mannequin. It's really fun to have someone who's like, right, at the beginning, she is kind of distractible. Like, they are pretty effectively able to keep her talking. And she's not, like, quite monologuing, but they're like, oh, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong.
She's not, like, super with it. Yeah, she's...
Yeah, and then the way that she fights is just, she sets everything on fire. But actually, they're pretty easily able to run away from that. And then when they run away, they're successful at doing that. Genesis comes out, and Burnscar fights her for a bit, but then Genesis leaves. And then Burnscar apparently just leaves.
Well, she might be chasing Bitch. We don't know where Bitch is.
No, it's possible, but I read that as, like, kind of what we know about Burnscar from her interlude was a little bit of, like, well, when she sees a little bit of fire, it kind of sets her off. And it's this, like, slippery
she seems
slope.
to have, like, cognitive impairment when she uses her power. It seems to reduce her capacity to think.
Right, but I think they lucked into a good play against Burnscar here by just running away. Because I kind of feel like when they were no longer in front of her, she's like, oh, well, this sucks. I'm out of here. Right? Like, I feel like she just moved on. And there's a little bit of me, like, the counterfactual where Taylor runs out into the street to fight her. That's going to make Burnscar super happy. Like, here's this little alien girl again for me to set on fire. And
you know what it
the
is?
Fires will get bigger and bigger and bigger. But the fact that they just wait her out, Burnscar's like, oh, all right, I'm out of here.
This is Megamorphs 1. Totally legible to everyone listening to the podcast. I know. It's the Valik. It's Tobias's metaphor about, like, he's a red-tailed hawk. He's a bird of prey. When he sees a mouse run, he pays attention to it. If that mouse stops moving and another mouse starts running, he pays attention to the new mouse because the hawk brain thinks it's the same mouse.
Yeah.
And I think Burnscar might have a little bit of a hawk brain here.
Yeah. I think that's what's going on. So it is fun, similar to the way that like Mannequin wanted to toy with them, and Taylor's like, and then we used that to our advantage. Is a similar thing where like Burnscar wants like a throwdown fight with them, and by just taking a step back,
running away was in fact the smart
actually
thing
pretty
to
effective.
do. Running away versus Mannequin would have been bad because he's really smart.
Yeah, and I don't get the sense that Burnscar is now going through Skitterland and trying to butcher people. That seems
Probably
like a very
not.
Mannequin, type
Right, she's
of thing
not
to do.
thorough and focused in that way, would be my guess.
And she doesn't
She's
have a vendetta
probably-
against Skitter.
Oh, no,
either.
that's true.
Right.
She's probably going off to find the other people she needs to test.
Yeah, exactly. She's
And
given
just
Bitch
merrily
her
lighting the
orders.
city on fire as she goes, but probably not in a specifically targeted and, like, maximally destructive way.
Right.
Yeah, she is not a strategist, is my guess.
No.
But the point that Taylor's making at the end is that they don't need to fight Burnscar right now. They need to fight Shatterbird. They need to fight Crawler. They need to
Yeah.
fight everyone who hasn't gone yet.
Yeah.
They need to figure out how to get through those sheaths. They need to figure out how to leverage this alliance with Cherish. All this information they're going to get from
Which
Aisha.
they don't know about yet. Well, let's
No,
hope.
exactly. They need to get. They don't know about the sheaths or the alliance.
Yeah.
Imp just dies before she can ever tell them.
I wanted to circle back to the sort of flat affect thing.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about it a little bit last episode, though we haven't edited that episode, so I don't know if we left it in. But there was the line last chapter about she sounded like Sophia in this, like, emotionlessness or something. Except Sophia's angry, but, like, Burnscar had a similar kind of, like, there's, like, a vacantness to her. And then we got, like, Burnscar's speaking like an actor reading the lines from a script without actually emoting them. She has a dead look in her eyes. Yeah, I was kind of wondering what you made of that. Like, what it's meant to connote about Burnscar, the comparison to Sophia.
I mean, what we learned in the interlude with Labyrinth is that Burnscar sort of loses her sense of empathy, I think was how it was put when she uses fire, and that's sort of the mindset that she needs to be in order to survive in the Nine, to thrive in the Nine. And so it's this balance of, like, keeping herself off balance.
Right.
Maybe.
And Sophia also has that, I don't know what the right term is, the dark triad personality, of, like, subclinical psychopathy and narcissism and Machiavellianism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like we're drawing this connection between these two characters based on the sort of, like, lack of affect, and it feels like it's sort of insight from Taylor. It's like, oh, I can, because of how these people speak, I understand this sort of, like, this emotional disconnect, this like thing about them. Then later in the chapter, when Taylor gets back and finds Charlotte and all of the kids, and she's trying to say, you did good, she thinks, I sounded like Burnscar did. No emotion behind the words.
But it's because she's feeling so much. She's,
Right.
like, overwhelmed with her own guilt.
Yeah, and so I was looking up, right, so, like, the sort of reduced affect or flat affect thing, right? Like, it is something that you associate clinically with psychopathy, but also, like, depression, PTSD, autism.
I was going to say, a lot of different things, but completely different causes.
Right. It really struck me reading it of being like, Taylor, are you sort of doing that thing where, like, you look at somebody who's, like, a witness where something tragic has happened to them, and you're like, oh, well, I can tell they don't really feel it, right? Just listening how they're talking in court, I can tell that they're lying. Like, that's the person who really killed their spouse or whatever, right? Like, even though...
Hey, now, it was Battery who thought she could tell when people were lying.
No, but so it pinged a little bit of that, like, well, how can you tell just from her talking? But then the chapter went on to actually show it from the other side, right? So Taylor has this insight of, like, oh, she's like Sophia, but then she talks like that for a reason that's completely different than the one she would attribute to them.
I
don't know. I thought it was interesting, and I appreciated getting both sides of it, and Taylor doesn't then think back to sort of, I don't know, putting it into a bigger picture.
And it's interesting, especially because Burnscar is perhaps the one of the Nine where we've gotten the most sympathetic, sort of human portrayal. Like her conversation with Elle was, you know, I wouldn't say it was exactly like a wholesome, heartwarming conversation, but she was showing a real human need for a connection to someone who she thought was a friend, and she experienced sort of the devastation of realizing that maybe she wasn't correct about that.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen a lot from her since then that shows that she's reachable in that way. But
And it's also the coercion, sort of like they keep her addicted with fire, right? Like, I think Jack was saying, like, we make sure that she's always around a lit flame so that that human side of her has no chance.
Of course. I mean, that's such a metaphor for how the Nine operate in general. They do take these people and alienate them deliberately from the things that make them human. And Burnscar clearly still has a little bit of that in her, but, I mean, we don't see it in this chapter. She definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she is complicated, and I would be interested to know if some of that complication comes through at all in the plot to come.
Well, what did you think of her test and the way that she pitched it?
Oh, yeah.
Does that reveal anything to you about Burnscar? Like, it's a very Slaughterhouse 9 test, right? Murder the thing that you fear the most, so that it has no hold over you.
Remove your keystone. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a Jack-style test, really.
But they framed it as like, well, Burnscar can do her classic test, right?
But she said they haven't been able to use this one in a while. I think when he talked about Burnscar's test, he was like, it's better if it's a surprise. So I'm not sure that this is the one she always uses. It seems like they couldn't use it until, like, they can use it when they've had time to do a lot of research, or now that they have Cherish, they can do it more easily. So I don't know that it can be the one she's been doing all along.
Oh, that's interesting. I read it the opposite way, where, like, she was excited to be able to do it because she had the intel.
Right, but she hasn't had it, I think, in recent iterations, was my impression.
Oh.
Let me check again. Yeah, she says, we don't get to do it often enough because it requires research. Got to do it with Cherish because she gave us the necessary info. Okay, so she did do it last time with Cherish.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
I read that as because they have Cherish, now they can do it. But
I think that's also true.
What she's saying is that Cherish just told them
Yeah.
about her own fears and connections to people, which is so funny. Cherish is so bad.
Yeah, she says, wasn't very bright of her, but she did.
No, that didn't click for me until just now. That's just like the most Cherish thing ever.
Cherish is really not cut out for this, and it's a good thing she's going to betray them and join our villain heroes, perhaps. Maybe. We'll see.
But yeah, so my thought about what Burnscar says to Bitch is, like, she's really bad at this. I don't understand how you can say, sure, you might cry when your dogs bite the dust, but time heals the wound, you get more dogs and you bounce back. It's like, how do you think that this is going to work? How do you think this is going to get through to Bitch? It just feels like the most poorly calculated method of, like, getting to her. Like, and she goes on to say this sort of like, I know you better than, you know yourself. And Taylor does sense some kind of hesitation or confusion on Bitch's part later, but I feel like getting in there and being like, yeah, you don't really care about your dogs. Like, they're disposable. Like, this is not a winning tactic to get Bitch to play the game.
No, that's true. I do think, though, that she's correct. Not that Bitch doesn't care about her dogs, and that's not what she's saying, but that Bitch knows there will always be more dogs. Like, this is an area where Bitch feels deeply competent of creating connection. Like, she can always bring on more dogs, and it's devastating to her when she loses one. It's sort of like most people when they lose a family member or, like, a close friend or something. But I think it's possible there is a grain of truth in this is the best set of actual human connections Bitch is ever going to get. And Bitch is in the process of losing them. And Bitch does not feel competent at connecting to other people. She did sort of luck into this situation where she doesn't have great relationships, but she does have relationships, and they do still have the potential of becoming better relationships. And that is much less replaceable than her relationships with dogs, even if she cares about the dogs more in a different way. But I think you're right that was a huge strategic error for Burnscar to pose it that way, because Burnscar made her see that these relationships are irreplaceable and that she is in the process of losing them, but it's not necessarily inevitable at this point. She needs to fight for them. She needs to do whatever she can to keep them, because she'll never get this kind of thing again. I don't know if Bitch had thought that through. Maybe she had. We saw some of that, I think, in her interlude. But, that's not the way to get Bitch to kill her teammates. That's the way to get Bitch to fight for her teammates. Yeah. And she did.
Yeah.
She did not attack her teammates. And, there was no reason she would. I never really thought that she would do that. But, she was basically talked out of it.
Yeah. It's so funny. Once again, Cherish confirms in the text that the Undersiders are a found family. First for Alec, and now for Rachel.
Yes! Right?
We have canonical confirmation based on how Cherish's power works, that these are real connections and deep friendships. It's so funny. Yeah. And I hadn't quite put that together yet, that Taylor, of course, reads Bitch's sort of confused look at her and Brian as oh no, she's thinking about it. When in fact it's oh, she is trying to process the information that she just learned about how important these relationships are, that she's losing them.
Right.
I also really appreciated, Taylor is the best, when she says to Burnscar, I think you're underestimating how much she loves her dogs.
Yeah.
A wound like that never heals. Bitch turned her head just enough to give me a hard look. My note was Taylor, now Bitch will love you again. To me, this is a hard look, not purely because of being angry at Taylor and not liking her. It's the look of, I need to make sure you are being sincere and not making fun of me, right? Because Bitch doesn't know tone of voice, right?
Yeah.
So she's focusing really, really hard, but that's not a sign that she already doesn't approve of it.
No,
she's
definitely not.
Taking it in, and I just feel like that's the thing if you want Bitch in your corner, right?
Yeah. Taylor jumps in front of a bullet for the dogs. Yeah. Taylor talks about how much Bitch loves them. Yeah. There's no reason the Slaughterhouse 9 need to tell the truth, right? Even when they're saying these cutting things. I think that the relationships are certainly frayed. We knew that, but I think she's going to get them back.
Yeah.
I'm putting that stake in the ground.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
Okay.
And because I think the stuff we've seen in the last 2 arcs is really pushing her in that direction. And she wants to move in that direction. If that door is open, she'll go through it. And, Taylor's already made it clear that she will. So, the Undersiders will accept her back if she wants to embrace them again.
Yeah.
Or maybe even embrace them more fully.
You'd love to see it, wouldn't you?
I would. I do want to see it. Ted, I want to see it.
Get typing.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I think I'm predicting that the story will give us that.
Okay. Stake in the ground. It's going to be great.
Either that or Bitch is going to die and it'll be one of those, vindication deaths.
Why not both? Yeah, why not both?
Because I don't want her to die, that's why. Let's talk about Taylor and Grue.
Yeah. What are you thinking here?
That thing where she's smothered in his darkness, where he is sort of incapacitating her in a way that's really uncomfortable for her to protect her, and it does kind of work. That was such a moment. I saw that, I was this is going to be thematic, and it was really thematic for the rest of the chapter, where Taylor is being a little self-destructive.
Yeah.
Because Burnscar is really pushing her bullying buttons. And Brian is the one who reins her in. And that makes sense. He is a very cautious person. He is comfortable stepping forward and keeping people from doing things that he thinks will be bad for them. That's sort of the big brother behavior.
Yeah.
And, he's the leader of the Undersiders now, I guess. We haven't really seen that in action much, but yeah.
And he, there's a parallel to Danny here, right? Yeah. Danny locked Taylor in the house, but Brian is willing to physically restrain her.
Yeah.
Not just with his power, but with his body. And we have seen that and judged Brian for it. That moment when she flees the loft after the fight with Rachel, the very first one, when he uses his power on her and kind of lures her back in. we've seen him like push bitch up against a wall and say like, how dare you make me look bad, you know, that kind of thing. And from Taylor's perspective here, she cares about it so much more, almost like intellectually than viscerally. She's like, she wants to be free to leave, but she's not having a reaction of like repulsion. How dare you touch me? How dare you?
It's not the bully locker feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, from him. But the behavior really is kind of the same. And it's like, in this moment, his willingness to grab Taylor and hold her down when she wants to leave is something that she is later grateful for.
Yeah.
Which is a sort of an uncomfortable statement of the dynamic here.
I don't know. This feels completely different to me than the other two instances. There is such a difference between physically coercing someone because you think you know what's best for them, and it's like joining a group or communicating better with your teammates, versus going out into the street and fighting a fire-wielding madwoman when you don't have any weapons to fight her with. Like, I think the urgency of this situation justified the physical force in a way that it was not justified in the other two situations.
Okay. Yeah.
That just feels totally different. Like the immediacy of like, please don't go out into the streets and burn to death is just...
Yeah.
Made it feel like a different category.
And to be clear, in this chapter, when he smothers her in darkness and she panics, right, that's also totally understandable.
That was totally fine. Yeah.
And
that was the normal way he'd use darkness in a combat situation.
And that moment was so interesting to me because it reveals how much Taylor has grown to rely on her sixth sense for that sense of control that she needs, right? She is so uncomfortable being blind when her power is also off, right?
Yeah. I mean, she does describe, like, she's reaching out with her bugs to see where the fires are, and they're kind of everywhere. And she describes herself as being like a blind person tapping with a cane.
Yeah.
And it really has become a fundamental sense for her to the point where, like, losing it does feel like being blind.
Yeah. And it's ironic, given when she first got that sense, it almost destroyed her, right? Yeah. She was hospitalized because of how overwhelming it was.
And now she's really figured out how to use it. She's made it part of herself.
Yeah. Yeah, and she needs it. She can't go without it.
So let's talk a little bit about Taylor's despair.
Yeah, well, coming off of what we were just saying, right, she thinks about her trigger event, how she'd reached out, my mind extending out for something, anything to distract me and draw my focus away. I wasn't trapped in a locker, but I felt very close to how I had then. Except it wasn't the feeling that I was trapped. My power's range hadn't increased. It felt like that in a different way. And then she says the despairing version of, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the nuance there?
Yeah. I guess feeling trapped in a physical sense is different for her than being trapped in sort of the metaphorical, like, we are bound for death sense. Does that make sense? I wasn't totally sure why this situation wasn't giving her a range boost. It really seemed like the perfect one. They're like trapped in a building amidst fires. Right,
but maybe there's a lack of that fight or flight type response. Like, she's not about to die, right, in the next 5 minutes.
Right, and she's also not somewhere that she doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
That's where she was in the principal's office, that, you know, when she had the boost for the loom fight afterward.
Yeah.
She is in her lair, her place of comfort.
Yeah.
And she has an ally with her. And so maybe... And she also feels like her own failures have led her here to some extent.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone else did this to me and it's unjust.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know that I have the answer, but I had a few different ideas, right? So related to something we were just saying about the immediacy, right? I kind of just buy the fight or flight thing. She feels trapped in an existential way, but her power only gets better when she feels trapped, as in a, like, I'm running so hard across the entire city that I'm going to fall down kind of way, right? And just those are, of course, very
it's a physical
different
thing. Yeah.
Different physically. I was also thinking about how she's like, oh my God, Skitterland is ruined. All these people have died and it's my fault. I wonder if those stakes are also a little too abstract to really get her going in the same way. The sort of like when she's running across the city, it's to save Danny, right? It's sort of the feeling of seeing Lisa struck down. And as much as she cares about her work in Skitterland, the thing that she's emotionally anchored to is saving Dinah. Or when she sees this girl about to be, torn apart, so to speak, by the merchants, and she's like, I must save her now right there. And as devastating as all of this is, and maybe even because she's feeling a little bit of that, like, well, I only care about Skitterland for selfish reasons. Right? She has enough almost like conflict or distance from it that it's like not quite pushing that same button. So that was one angle on it, that like the stakes are not quite personal enough. The other thing I was thinking about is in the context of her making a hasty decision. This sort of like, I need to do something. I just need to go out there.
Yeah.
And then being restrained and being like, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't do that. It made me think about a comparison to Burnscar in this moment and that addictive behavior of like...
just taking action, being addictive. Yeah.
Right. So almost like chasing a high. Yeah. And we had, again, Lisa put it like your power gets stronger when you get back into that headspace. And
she wants to be in a physical corner again so that she becomes powerful.
Is this an example of her being like, I feel trapped, but my range isn't extending, so I need to go get more trapped. Like, I need to go get physically trapped. She's not thinking of that consciously, but I wonder if this is a little bit of that insidious, like, urge to do something, to put yourself into that corner.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not an accident that we might see that from Taylor in kind of the Burnscar fight chapter, or the first Burnscar fight chapter.
I loved this moment of like, we can't stay in here. We have to go take the fight to her. And then Brian being like, no, that's crazy. I'm going to physically restrain you. And then we're not doing that.
Yeah.
It's such an inversion of the sort of classic, like, we have to turn the tables moment. Like, she's like full of this righteous anger. And she's like, we're going to take the fight to them and we're going to destroy them. And that's a narrative beat that can often carry you to victory.
Yeah.
But it's very much subverted here where Brian's like, no, we're not. You would just die. But then she has the same beat at the end of the chapter where she's like, we need to turn the tables. And I am assuming it's not going to go the same way.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like, I mean, this is sort of the balance thing. We've talked about it in this narrative a lot, but like, she's earning the earnest moment of like, no, we need to switch it around, because she already had the hollow moment of being called out. I'm like, no, you're just being self-destructive. Yeah. And there's also a push and pull, right? Just as recently as last chapter, she said to Brian, I don't have a plan, but we're going to come up with one right now. We're going to split up and we're going to survive. Right. And now he's the one telling her to survive.
Right, Brian's just giving the same advice back and she can't listen to it. It's like, what's changed, right? Obviously, they're still on the back foot, but like last chapter, she was ready to, and she confirms it here, kind of what you were saying. Last chapter, she's ready to kill herself to take out Mannequin. And then they beat Mannequin. And then now she's like totally on tilt because Burnscar cheated and she's not prepared to fight Burnscar. Right. And she is like running away impotently. And that's like driving her up a wall in the way that like, facing down Mannequin, it seemed like she was still doing badly, but it felt like she had slightly more clarity.
One thing this is making me think is that I like the Sumbug dynamic more in what we've seen in these few chapters than, I did previously. And one reason is that they seem to balance each other really well in terms of like, when one of them is losing it, the other is able to keep a level head and sort of stay in control. And then, we saw that switch this chapter. And I mean, I don't know how much Brian was losing it last chapter, but she was able to be the one in control. And then when she lost it, he's able to be the one in control. And that I mean, that's a dynamic we've talked about in our relationship. Not usually the same, like, in control issue. We don't fight that many supervillains, but, like, you know,
not that many.
not that many, not as many as they do. When one of us is struggling, the other one is often able to step up because of the other person's struggle and sort of the need to create the balance. And so I think they're experiencing the same thing here. And I like it. I feel like it's a very functional dynamic for them.
Yeah. There is a lot of empathy. Right. He is very in touch with how poorly she is doing in this chapter.
Yep.
I want to read that last bit. You okay? Grue asked. Pissed. Me too. Though I get that you have more reason to be angry. I stopped clenching my fists. I blinked back tears. Fucking contact lenses. He wrapped his arms around me in a hug. My face was mashed against his shoulder. His grip was too tight. My back was sore where his hand touched a spot near the burn. There was also that mess of awkwardness from when I'd confessed my feelings for him that now seemed so minor and distant compared to everything that was going on. We'll get through this. No, I said, pulling away. Not like this, we won't. But that's the not like this that's not despair.
Right,
it's the one that's determined.
Right.
So yeah, it's very Sumbug here.
They're going to be great parents, you know? One of them's going to be like, I can't live with this toddler. And the other will be like, no, we'll get through this. And the next day it'll switch.
What is your current view on the status of Sumbug?
It's on the back burner, like Taylor said. There are a lot of more important things happening, but I do feel like he is awakening to it.
Okay.
Because I think maybe he's someone who just, like, needs a long time to come around to his feelings, to let his feelings grow.
Yeah.
Some combination of the two. Where, you know, he wasn't ready to confront it when she talked to him about it initially, and now she's moved past it. I mean, I think she can be brought back to it, but she has moved past it, and he is, like, starting to catch up, maybe. But I think it's going to be a long journey.
Yeah. I was also noting a little bit of Aisha coming out of Taylor here, where she's like, I'm sick of running. We can't let them get away with this. I just have to do something. And him being like, look, this isn't going to work. You know, Aisha a few chapters ago was like, I can go do something and you won't let me. And then she disappears and, runs away.
I mean, we talked was it last chapter? The interlude, 2 chapters ago? We talked during the interlude about, is Aisha self-destructive? Does she have a death wish? And I don't think the answer was yes. But the same question is valid for Taylor here. And again, the answer isn't quite yes, but, like, she does talk about how little regard she has for her own life, which I think is the same place Aisha is in. Yeah. Where she talks about how, like, she doesn't have her dad, she doesn't have anything about her normal life. She's failed in all of these ways. She really lists out, like, the things that she considers her biggest failure. Do you have that there?
I'd cut ties with my dad, dropped out of school, helped get Loon arrested, and started a chain of events that had led to the ABB terrorizing tens of thousands of people. I'd served as a distraction so a power-hungry supervillain could kidnap a girl and keep her drugged in some underground cell for months. I'd stood by to let a man die. I'd become a full-fledged villain, pledged to protect people and then let them die horribly, not once, not twice, but 3 times. What the hell had I been thinking, wanting to become a superhero?
Yeah, she's really down on herself. I mean, I could argue with her about how, like, she's been fighting as hard as she can against a gang of superpowered serial killers who are trying to destroy everything. And, like, it doesn't make her a villain that she hasn't been succeeding. Yeah. But she is very down on herself, and it seems there is a part of her that wants to kind of spend her life cheaply. Yeah. Because she doesn't value it, and maybe because she's afraid, if she feels like she's been doing bad things to the world, she might have a little bit of that, like, well, if I die now, at least I'll spare all the people I would have gotten killed in the future. Which I think is an erroneous, that's specious. Like, she is only going to continue to fight for good things if she lives. But she has such a sense of her own failure that I think she wants to give up.
Yeah, I was, like, seeing how low she is in this chapter. I feel like this arc might have been one for me where, like, we've paced out the episodes. Also, we had that imp interlude kind of interrupt the Taylor flow where, like, I feel like at the beginning of last chapter, I was like, oh, Taylor's back in her element. And I was totally misreading it, right? Like, she may have had some moments of like tactical success and clarity, right? But she started out this arc so defeatist about like, oh, how are we going to even survive the slog? And she, had that disappointing showdown with Panacea. She had all of these people in Skitterland get destroyed. And then just as she was about to beat Mannequin, that got snatched away from her. It's really been a pile on. And like, she's not doing good. I was also thinking about like what Skitterland means to her as like a symbol. And again, connecting to like the whole Dinah thing again, right? This idea of she has spent arcs 11 and 12, like building up this place, right? That's, I'm going to do something that is so good that I will be rewarded for it. Mm-hmm. And then having seen, and we've been sort of saying like, yeah, but like, what about the compromises? Like, what about like, you started out saying Dinah every minute she's still in captivity, and she's sort of like bought herself some time with this thing. And having that thing destroyed, we'll see how actually destroyed it is. But like her seeing it destroyed is really making her face the rest of it.
Yeah, it's probably the best thing that could have happened for Dinah. Like,
yeah, that's a good way of saying.
Well, then Taylor would have been strung along for years. But now, since she's faced with the failure, I was thinking about this whole Dinah thing. I was like, okay, well, Taylor can give up this plan of being useful to Coil by having this territory. Like, what if can she make herself useful enough to Coil? I mean, I don't think she'll ever be useful enough to Coil, because he can always just tell her she isn't useful enough yet. He's figured out her deepest need, and he can keep her on the hook forever. But I was like, can she be useful by defeating the Slaughterhouse 9? And I was like, no, I don't think that there is anything there, like, that would get, like, there is no way to be good enough for Coil. This is...
we haven't seen any reason to doubt that.
There's absolutely no reason. But she could become bad enough. She could become skilled enough to get one over on him. And I think I've said this before, but taking down the 9 is going to give her the experience and the confidence to believe that she can take down Coil. Yeah. Or at least to give her just enough of a foothold to start. Because she knows already that she's gonna have to. She admitted it to Brian. Yeah. It's just that she still thinks it's impossible. So take down the Slaughterhouse 9 and it won't feel quite as impossible.
Yeah. And that's also, right, that's another way to view what Skitterland meant is, right, she felt so impotent, but like having this territory that she controls makes her feel like a tough guy. Having these minions that answer to her, like being able to fight off all the merchants and eventually the chosen.
But like she never would have fought Mannequin if it hadn't been for her people.
Right.
Pushed her in that direction.
Right.
Of like embracing her own strength.
Right. And just if Skitterland represents like her external confidence, right? She's so hard on herself. But maybe if Skitterland is big and tough enough, then she feels like she can maybe take on Coil, right? So there's almost a like, she has to build herself up in her own mind to be able to pull off.
And she's not going to be able to do it with the help of Skitterland. She's going to have to do it with her own like badass takedown of the 9.
Yeah.
And Coil's not going to lead that. He seems to be weirdly passive about this whole thing. Maybe it's the week that he owes to Cauldron.
You can only hope.
That would be fascinating if this is the week that they've decided to call in their favor.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, if it was up to him to be instrumental in taking out Shatterbird and Siberia in some way, then they probably would.
Ooh, yeah.
Speaking of our favorite Cauldron friend, when Taylor's like, they're just bullies, they're powerful, they've got every advantage, but that's all the more reason we can't let them get away with this. Like, I relate to that so hard, but that's the Battery ethos.
That is right? Battery.
It's not about justice. It's about, we can't let them get away with this. We didn't talk about Genesis at all. Do you have any quick thoughts on Genesis? We learned some things about her power, right? She's basically in a coma. And my takeaway there is like, you really need teammates you trust. You can't be a solo operator as Genesis.
It's got to be pretty unnerving to be the only member of the Travelers here with the Undersiders.
Yeah. She has a limited ability to do her shape-shifting dreaming. She has reserves. I don't remember if those reserves got characterized with some of the Unraveler scenes earlier, but I don't remember what that deal is. And we sort of see that her main weakness is just it takes time, right? In this sequence, she's always been
a
beat behind. Yeah. She's prepared for the previous opponent. And that's really struggling.
Who's going to be the next opponent then?
We also learn that she is in a wheelchair.
Yeah. It reminds me of Labyrinth being, I mean, we don't really know the order of events, but she was in this institution and physically limited, and she traveled in her imagination.
Yeah, very similar.
And this thing where Genesis maybe can't move in her own body, and so...
But she can have an out-of-body experience of movement.
Go to sleep and get a new body and be and do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
It's very metaphorical of like the kind of dreams you might have if you have that kind of physical disability.
Yeah. Oh, and I was remembering there were a couple of points on a reread that Genesis's wheelchair has been foreshadowed. I think as early as Arc 8, the Coil interlude, when they're getting his underground base together and they're like, oh, we're installing a ramp, for your new... something like that.
Cool.
Some clue. And some things about like where Genesis is and where she sleeps, right?
Right.
Why isn't she out, with the others?
She must have a limited physical range because otherwise I imagine she would keep her real body back in Coil's base because that's going to be more secure.
And I think she did for a while until they had the territory thing.
Right, but now that they have these new teams, she's like put her physical body in the hands of the underside. It's got to be unnerving.
Yeah. And, Taylor also pulls a classic Taylor maneuver when Brian is like, we should just leave. Her reason for going back is, well, Genesis is there. We have to save Genesis, which is to say, like, well, we have to go in and save Neuter. Yeah. We have to save Charlotte, right? Like, leave no Unraveler behind.
I mean, also she was right. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, she's feeling this sort of like self-destructive impulse, right? And in that moment, she's able to like conjure up a reason, right? Like, we have to save Genesis. And then later on, like, she doesn't have a reason to run out and fight Burnscar, except that it's unfair. But she's still,
She also has a good like eye and memory for like the people who need to be saved. Like, Brian would have just left. Not because he doesn't care, but he's just like maybe more focused on what's directly in front of him.
He might not have known that Genesis was there also, right? Taylor had to tell him, I had her real body sent to my lair.
Oh,
that was like exposition we got.
I think that he probably had some idea, but he wasn't thinking about it, and she was thinking about it, and that's a strength that she brings to the group.
Yeah. I also liked Taylor gives Charlotte orders and notes that Charlotte feels invigorated by having something to do, which is...
That was a really nice interaction. I mean, Taylor fails to be anything but like incredibly grim, but but does manage to tell Charlotte, no, it was great that you saved these kids and brought them here. Here's a safer place for them. And Charlotte's like, yes, orders.
What did you feel about the lost children of Skitterland?
It's real dark. I was thinking like, okay, so Mannequin was focusing on families and he was killing parents more than kids. That's a really interesting choice on his part. And at first I was thinking like, okay, does he think that will create more chaos because then the kids will grow up all like messed up? But I was like, but parents who have lost kids are also going to be messed up and are going to be more immediately powerful because they're adults. And so I think it must be something in relation to his own tragedy. Or like he lost his wife and kids, and perhaps for all of the destruction that he wants to wreak, he is not willing to do that to other parents. Like, he'd rather kill them than have them lose their kids.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know. That feels like too much credit to give him.
Yeah, I mean, I got the sense in the first Mannequin fight that he wanted to kill that kid, But
I think he ended up going after the mom.
Yeah, so so that is interesting to think about. I mean, it could also just be maybe like slightly tactical, that the parents are slightly more of a threat, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
They might be more of a threat, I don't know, but no one's really a threat to him like that, like normal civilians.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like you're better off dead than losing your children, and your children are vulnerable and you might lose them someday, so I'm going to kill all the parents.
Yeah. I mean,
that would kind of make some intuitive sense to me.
Right. In a kind of fucked up way.
Yes, very.
Yeah. It's like, the sort of Taylor seeing how, she calls them like stoic and shocked the kids are. They're not like acting like kids. Really devastating. Yeah. And of course, as someone who lost her mom a few years ago, I feel like this is also pushing her not into a trigger event mind space, but definitely into a like deeply held trauma mind space.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that grief is like sort of the difference between the fight or flight feeling and how she's feeling in this chapter, just because it's so sad. It's a deep trauma for her, but it's not the one that's connected to her powers.
Yeah. I want to see what happens with like the Charlotte orphanage. I feel like that might become a thing. Yeah. Her and her group of kids in the future. Sierra did a great job. She organized everyone and sent them to hide.
Directions.
Yeah. Seems like her minions are minioning well.
Yeah, Charlotte saved all these kids. I mean, it's just like it ups the stakes. It's like now Taylor.
Well, yes, now she has this group of kids.
Right, like
that
speaking
she's responsible
of,
for.
like these are the Dinahs, right? Like they're not capes, right? But it's like now she's inherited the burden of. I mean, even if it's unfair, in some ways, she is going to feel responsible for all of these children forever now.
Wow, that's so true. I mean, that's why it's going to stay a thing. Yeah.
Oh, we had a costume beat in the chapter. They have a moment to breathe, and she goes up and curls up in her armchair, and she's like, so many dead, but my reasons for, being sad are also kind of selfish because it ruins my plan to save Dinah. I took off my mask and let it drop to the ground. My costume, I saw, was in tatters where it had burned.
Yeah, this is a huge blow. Her costume has saved her so many times. And she does have plans to make a new costume, but they've definitely been derailed right now.
Yeah.
So she's just lost another, card up her sleeve.
Yeah, it's very symbolic of kind of the point I was making about what Skitterland means to her in terms of her rep, right? She's like been projecting out, and now Skitterland has fallen, and even her Skitter costume is no more, right? Like there is no... there is no shield between her and the rest of the world right now.
Mm-hmm. This also reinforces the thing where she's like, we can't go on like this. It's only been 2 people, one of whom surrendered right away, and she's already lost her costume, which is one of her main strengths.
Yeah. Do you have any other predictions?
They're gonna have to go find some of the other Undersiders. Bitch is in the wind, and they need to get her, make sure she's okay. They're not going to be able to put a plan in place without uniting the Unravelers, so I think that's the next step.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially they need to meet up with Aisha, and Brian is going to be very focused on that. Like, Skitterland is on fire. Aisha isn't going to know where to find them. Like, she's vulnerable and out in the world, and how do they get to her?
Yeah.
Assuming they remember she exists.
Right. So she needs to get somewhere where she can activate her power.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you how Snare 13.5 starts.
Oh, please do.
The first 5 words are, Bentley had been turned on.
Wow, that sounds inappropriate.
The rest of the first line is, Bentley had been turned on his back.
Oh, that makes more sense. Bentley is the one who died. Or maybe we don't know that
was
he's
incapacitated.
Dead. Okay, interesting.
We have not seen a confirmed Bentley death.
Yeah, because we don't really know how the gas worked. Okay, so...
Maybe they're all asleep. Except the bugs.
They're going to go try to find Bitch. I think we're not going to get an immediate discussion of what can we do, because I think that's a fun thread to spool out for a little while. Hopefully not as long as the thread from the end of Arc 8. But yeah, I think this is going to be a questing for other people chapter. They're probably not going to fight Burnscar again. Mm-hmm. That feels like it would be a narrative step back.
Yeah, testing is off. Now we're playing dirty.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to find out.
Next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildvote. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.